All right. Hi, everybody online. Hi, everybody in the room. We're talking about coming soons and withhelds and how people are using them in the market today. I know Don and Andrew kind of are really good at using them for their listings and getting a lot of business off of them, and getting a lot of buzz going. So that's why Don's here. He's going to talk first. You all right with that?
Sure.
And tell us how you use coming soons and withhelds on your listings.
Okay. So I don't use the withhelds very often. I actually just did a new listing now that's withheld, at least for the time being. Special circumstances, it was an Amish seller. He had just closed on a 95-acre beautiful hobby farm just outside of Woodville. They closed on December 31st, and the seller has the right to stay there until March 31st. But because the Amish buyer was in town yesterday, we signed all the listing contracts, got all the paperwork done, and it's a withheld right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the circumstances, I know the seller well, the guy that actually has possession of the property still.
Mhm.
And he's going to allow us to do maybe 2 or 3 showings with some of our clients in the time that he and his wife are still living there. And then when he vacates, then at that point, I'll turn it into a coming soon,
Mhm.
get the property, get the photos and the home inspection done. I always, that's one thing I do is always, I do a pre-listing home inspection. And I'll go into that, why I do that a little later. So the withhelds, I don't use them very often, just under special circumstances, or if it's a situation where it's a deal where it was put together, we've got a deal put together already on a property, both buyer and seller. We'll go ahead and get the listing contracts signed and everything, but enter it as a withheld property because it's never going to be available for showings.
Mm-hmm.
The coming soons, I started using those a lot last summer. Well, as soon as we were able to, I guess. How long has it been? Has it been 2 years?
I think.
I don't think I used one the first year, but last year I used them a lot. I have found that it just reduces the workload. I might take an exterior photo and enter a listing as a coming soon. And then in the time that it says coming soon, I'll get the home inspection done and get the photos taken. But actually, more often than not, I like to have the home inspection and the photos done already. Then I'll enter it as a coming soon. Like to have it on for maybe 5 days. I think if you have a coming soon for too long, people might lose track of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to have it for about maybe 5 days tops. And last summer we were routinely getting a dozen showings in one day. And because of the market, you get 5 or 6 offers, review those the next day, and it's done. It's just like that. It's over. The seller was only inconvenienced for 1 day for showings instead of multiple days. It just works out better for everybody. And the coming soon, along with the pre-listing home inspection, makes my life a lot easier too, because we will end up getting, if we get 5 or 6 offers, 2 or 3 of them at least are going to come in without a home inspection contingency. They'll just go on what the pre-listing home inspection said. That makes differentiating between offers pretty easy. All things being equal, you're always going to take the one without the home inspection if all the other terms are acceptable. So the coming soon it's been a good marketing tool. I think it gets the listings out there, and you can squeeze all your showings into 1 or 2 days and like I said, in this market, it's not I just tell the sellers to take a day trip and, come back in the evening when all the showings are done, and we'll probably have several offers to look at the next day. So,
I'm doing the same thing.
Yep.
With listings. When you do coming soon, yeah, it's just super easy to just set it loose basically as soon as it goes active. Because the cool thing with it is it automatically goes active at midnight.
Yep.
And people can, as long as you have showing time set up beforehand, they can preset their showings for once it goes active, so then your sellers already know that the day's gone before that day, so there's no major surprises. So with the less hassle, it's totally less of a hassle.
Yeah, and it was a good point. You better make sure you have your showing time set up, so that it is available. Set up your showing time for that listing. And people can start making their appointments on the availability day, or they can set up their showings 4 days in advance of the availability day.
Yep. Saves time.
Yep.
A lot of time. It's good for buyer's agents too, actually. Yeah. I think the coming soons, even as a buyer's agent, are really great. I know we're mostly talking about the listing side, but even as a buyer's agent, when it's going to be there. So as far as like jockeying your whole schedule and everything, when somebody calls you on a whim, you don't have to do that so much. Right. So I think it's totally advantageous for all sides of the transaction.
That's one thing about, I like to have it as a coming soon for maybe 5 days, sometimes 3, sometimes 7, and I'm not too particular about the day that it hits the market either. A lot of times we'll have it hit on a Thursday just because that's the way it worked out. But if people see it on Saturday of the previous week that it's coming soon, then buyers have times to adjust their work schedules, get babysitters if they have to, and it gives them 4 or 5 days to plan for that showing. So,
which is crazy to talk about.
Right. 100%.
I mean, it's just that intense out there right now. Yep. So, I mean, honestly, us doing coming soon gives the buyer's agent and the buyers a leg up and an ability to get in there and see it right away. So, do
you get calls saying, "Hey, Matt, can we get in there early"?
Not with coming soon. And I didn't do it. I didn't use. I had one listing last year, but year before I did it on most of my listings. Mm-hmm. And no, I mean, I definitely got calls that, is it going to come earlier? Because of course you can change the coming soon date. Right. Because I had some where I put it 21 days out and I knew we were going to do it shorter. We were going to shorten that time frame. It was just a matter of getting the photographer in there. So then I was able to share with those agents, yep, it's going to be shorter. It's going to go live on the whatever, 10th day, not the 21st day. Yep. And then we made the adjustment as soon as we knew for sure when we were going to go active with it. So, because you can only do 21 days for coming soon. That's the maximum amount that you can do. So 3 weeks. Then it's a long time.
Yeah. But all the paperwork has to be done. And, who do you have do your home inspections?
Normally, if Matt Rappel's available, I have Matt do them. Only rarely have I used somebody else if he's on vacation or something like that. But otherwise, Matt has been my go-to guy.
Does this make this easier for Barb when she enters it when it's coming soon, showing time?
Just as easy as a regular one. Everybody's got enough paperwork in there. With coming soon, I kind of started losing on my property because it was coming soon and they had offers come in sight unseen, and then they accept them. That's
Which you can do that. I mean, there's nothing against the rules, and you can do the same thing with withhelds. If you get an offer sight unseen, there's nothing that stops you from accepting that offer. It's totally frustrating. I get your point. I don't think that's super common. I haven't heard a lot about it though, at least with coming soons. Maybe more with withhelds. But not coming soon.
You can't accept before the availability date, though, can you?
Well, sure you can.
You can?
Yeah.
Because you didn't give anybody access to.
And you can prove that you didn't give them access.
Notes even coming on if
If it's coming soon, it's blasted.
Yeah, that
out
one,
there.
how about- but if it's withheld, how do you even know it's out there?
It wouldn't happen with the withheld, or unless,
Well, if you were doing a hugging situation,
right,
you could have it happen.
with withheld, we can circulate them.
Yep.
You know,
Withhelds are,
Right,
they're
okay,
calling them
gotcha.
office exclusives
Yeah,
now,
okay.
Yeah.
or the term is interchangeable.
Yeah,
So
understood.
if it's a withheld, you
Yep.
can advertise it within the brokerage, just our office here. So,
You can, what is, I thought there was something about you can't negotiate terms, or is it just you can't show it? Has nothing
Can't
to do
show.
with Negotiating about,
you've got a contract, so you can negotiate,
okay.
but you can't show it when it's coming soon. And if it's withheld, it can be shown. You can show it as the listing agent to prospective buyers. And because it can be an internal exclusive, a brokerage exclusive, another agent from in our market center can show it as well. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see, Peggy's got a question. Don, do you have the seller fix things before they go live from the inspection?
Yeah, ordinarily, Peggy, you know, the easy stuff, especially the GFI outlets that don't work and the exterior electrical outlets that need a new cover put on them and stuff like that. We'll get all that taken care of. Depending on what the item is on the inspection, just about all of it's going to get fixed.
Mhm.
But if there's something, you know, let's say there's a water softener that they don't use or isn't functioning, you know, as long as it's in the inspection and on the condition report, if the seller chooses not to fix it, I guess that's okay, as long as the buyer knows it already. So, but yeah, I actually like to have things fixed, not necessarily before the listing becomes active, but just sometime before closing.
Sure.
Do you mark that then in your agent remarks that items in the inspection report will be fixed by seller?
If they agree to do
Okay.
that, yeah. And a lot of times we just take care of that in any offers that, you know, if the buyer's agent might put in there that the seller agrees to fix these items. Or I might put in a counter offer, these are the items that are gonna be
Oh,
fixed
okay.
and these are the items that are not gonna be fixed.
But none of that really matters though, does it? Unless it's written in the contract?
Correct. Just because you have a pre-listing home inspection done, doesn't mean any of that stuff's gonna get done.
Do you have the buyers initial it, that they reviewed it, so later on it's not an issue?
Yeah, that's what I tell the buyer's agents to do ordinarily, that's kind of their job,
So to initial this inspection report that you provide?
that they've seen it. I mean, I really wouldn't have to do that, but I
Yeah.
think it's a good practice just to make sure that everybody realizes.
Proper disclosure.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's a CYA, cover your
Mhm.
assets
Mhm.
situation.
Yep.
So, you know, better to have them initial it and acknowledge its existence than ignore it.
Yeah.
So you do a pre-inspection, how often do you get offers that don't have inspection contingency?
I'd say
Most.
3/4 of them do not have home inspection
Well,
contingencies.
especially if they're local agents who know Matt.
Correct.
They're gonna say,
Yep.
he's good, let alone.
A lot of them will say, yeah, he's the guy we would have used anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
The only
right.
negative with that I see if I was the buyer's agent would be, even though it's Matt and I trust Matt empirically, the seller's paid for that. or
Correct.
You've paid for that. So it's not the buyer's
Yep.
property. It's not, and Matt doesn't owe them anything either.
Yep.
So if I was a buyer's agent, I would be cautious by accepting the pre-inspection. However,
If it's done by Matt, I'll always accept it, unless it was done like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Then I'd say, then you're risking something in broken since he looked at it.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
Matt's done it last week, I say, do what you want.
Yeah.
But he's the person I'm gonna have you, I'm gonna ask you to go back in there.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
He's the only one I trust really.
And I've actually talked to Jim Moe quite a bit about this because he's the
He
one
does
that I
it too.
notice does it all the
all the
time.
time.
But he's got forms also that the buyers have to acknowledge it said, okay, this was a pre-listing home inspection paid by the seller or by the listing agent. You really have no rights in this inspection. You can't come back and sue the inspector, all, you know, that kind of disclosure. So he's really got his ducks in a row as far as the paperwork and stuff like that, which I probably should do a little better job of.
Another follow-up question. So do you do the well, water, and septic inspections?
Yeah, I've actually on rural properties, I a lot of times will get those done beforehand too. I might not have the results by the time the listing becomes active, but we just tell people it's coming. The sample's been taken, the septic's been inspected already. And the sellers pay for that upfront. That's not something I do as part of the listing. That's gonna be a seller expense.
So do you pay for the home inspection?
I actually do,
Inspection?
yeah. So there's times when I sit home at night watching Netflix and, you know, if you get an inspection amendment and you start reading it and it said, you know, and I think, would I?
How's that go?
And I think, would I rather spend the $250 or $300 to have a pre-listing home inspection or negotiate all this BS? It's always, I'd rather spend the $300 up front and it never becomes an issue.
Now, when you pay for the, you have the sellers pay for the,
Septic,
well, and septic,
yes.
you ask for that reimbursement, then do you cover that, the offer for?
no,
You don't?
I just do the home inspection as part of my marketing. I pay for
How
that.
about the well and septic though? Because typically the buyer pays for that around here.
No, seller does.
No, seller.
Seller.
Default salary.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it over.
You go farther that way.
Yeah.
and
Claire
it
and
changes.
Menominee.
Yeah, that's right.
And farther
Buyer.
north and
Yeah.
farther south.
Yeah.
We're a bubble.
Yeah, we are for some reason.
I think it's a Minnesota carryover.
Okay.
Because if you're within a few miles of the cities, the seller pays for it, but you get more than a few miles out and it switches back over to the buyer.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, they get irritated over Eastern here if you ask for the sellers to pay.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So the only, I would say two things with doing the inspections beforehand. You know, in the offer, it does say that the inspection has to be dated the offer date or more recent. So obviously the buyers have to agree to those inspection results on the well and the septic that were from beforehand.
Yeah.
Could that ever, have you ever had a buyer's agent or a buyer turn around and say, well, we want new inspection results in accordance with the offer?
I have not at this point, and
I'm assuming that your results are really quite
the
recent.
results are recent anyway, because they're probably done within, you know, samples might be drawn literally within the week that the listing becomes active. So they're recent enough. They know that they're not from 4 months ago or 6 months ago. And that, you know.
So in a different market, which obviously the market is going to change here at some point, and we're not going to be selling listings within hours.
Right.
Will you continue to do the same things that you're doing now?
Probably not. Probably not. If it takes 2 months to sell a country property, then we're not going to be doing septic and well and water beforehand.
Yeah. And do you do that with all properties, or do you kind of gauge them? Because I mean, you might have some that maybe are going to take a few months, and you know they're going to take a few months.
Yeah.
We all have an idea of that.
Right. And although this year or this past year, I literally haven't had any of those that took an extended period of time. You price them. If you price them where the comps say they should be priced, they're going to sell
Right.
for $10,000 or $15,000 more than that, just because that's the way the market is. So, yeah, I haven't had any listings that took an extended amount of time to get sold this past year.
That's good. Okay.
Ryan?
Is there, what's your sales line to the sellers when you're trying to tell them you need a pre-well water septic inspection? I want the buyer to pay for that. Well, typically, what do you say to this?
Just tell them, it's in our area, it's just the common practice for the seller to provide that. And I tell them when we list, when we meet the first time, go over the expense sheet. I always type in, I've got a guy that does all three things for $250 or $300. And said, you will be asked to provide this anyway, so let's just do it now.
And they don't push back.
No. No.
And it gives you more time to fix something if something pops up.
100%, yep. If you gotta shock the well, or if there's something on the septic, more often than not, the only things that pop up are broken conduit or exposed wiring or
Pressure gauge.
Pressure
gauge,
valve is,
yeah. Yeah, the stupid smooth bore sample faucet.
Mhm.
I don't know how did that ever become code? I don't know, but whatever.
I don't know. Or well casing too short.
Mhm.
That one happens a lot too.
Yep.
I've noticed.
Matt, this might be just a question for you.
Yeah.
Other associations that are offering Coming Soon now outside of North Star.
Oh, Claire doesn't, or the.
No, they're talking about adding it.
They
Eau Claire
should.
is.
Yeah.
They do have a withheld. Their withheld works the same. The only difference is I have to sign their withheld form too. So if you're a member of RAN and you do a withheld, make sure that I have signed it before you send it into RAN, or they'll kick it back to you.
What's different in doing a withheld or a coming soon? When you fill out all the paperwork,
Yeah.
it's all the same. How do you know it's a withheld?
Well, you gotta have so in the packet that I've got here, I have both the coming soon and the withheld form. So if you're doing a withheld, you would use the withheld form. If you're doing coming soon, use the coming soon form. I know when I go to a listing appointment, I bring both of those forms with me because sometimes I'll do a withheld in conjunction with the coming soon as well as the listing paperwork. You just never know when somebody's gonna be ready, especially like, right now, you're going out to a listing appointment in the dead of winter, coldest week of the year, and somebody's like, well, I want to list in the spring. And of course, you don't want to miss that opportunity to get them to sign right then and there. So you have them sign right then and there. You do the withheld form right then and there. And they're
More than 21 days.
right, because it's more than 21 days. And I don't really want to advertise it yet anyway, if it's going to be months out. So I don't want to do it coming soon. So I'll have them just sign all the forms right away. That way I'm covered in 2 months or 3 months or whatever. I mean, I know a few agents here in the market center have used withhelds. Somebody just put stuff in for what was it, a year, I think it was. And then a couple months ago, somebody put one in, they were withholding it for 6 months before it was going to go live. So, there's no time limit on withheld. You can have an indeterminate amount of time. I would caution against going too far out just because you never know what's going to happen.
Could Don retire before you actually?
It's possible.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely, withhelds have no time limit, so you can use those through the roof, which is nice. So I don't have any other questions for you, Don.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Don? So the other thing that I was going to go over is I was just going to go over some of the basic rules, which we've already talked about a lot of it with regards to coming soon and withhelds. So I've got a packet, and everybody that's online, I'll email you the packet after class. I've been looking to see who's there. So coming soon's, the top, it talks about how it's a listing status that indicates property is being prepared for sale but is not ready for showing. So the bullet points are, you have to upload a completed and signed coming soon listing authorization form. So that's something that Barb does on behalf of everyone in the market center and sends it to North Star. So all coming soons must identify an availability date in the proper field as well as an active date, so they can be scheduled for the showings can be scheduled for the availability date or after. We talked about that. So at the 21-day point, so this talks about it too. So if the listing remains unavailable for showing when the availability date arrives, then you change it to TNAS, which is totally cool. You can do that. And as a procedural thing, you can go withheld to coming soon to TNAS, but you cannot go coming soon to withheld. You can only go one direction, not the other, not in reverse. 21 days, we talked about that. Listing, so yeah, that's the cool thing with it. The next point is that the coming soon listings are available to North Star participants and their customers through email customer portal. So you can email the listing out. People who have auto email set up for their clients, those, as long as they have coming soon as a status, which if you have auto emails that are set up in North Star and you haven't selected coming soon as one of your statuses to send out as auto emails, go back in and update that. It'll help a lot. Available on coming soon. Must meet the field requirement for that property type. Yeah, so at least one photo. I know with Don, you had said earlier that you take just like an outside photo, maybe a couple outside photos. I know when I do a coming soon, it's a teaser, so I generally don't give any inside photos. But I'll give a couple, 2, 3, 4 outside photos, whether I took them or whether a photographer took them, doesn't matter. But I'll always give a handful of outside photos, not all of them. And then I generally don't do any inside photos because I want that for later. Because if it does take more than a day or 2 days, you want to keep that buzz going.
You don't get notification if you added photos, if I'm not mistaken.
What's that?
Like your email participants, but
No, I always add all of the photos. Actually, I put them in the day before, later in the day before it goes active. So then when it automatically changes at midnight to active, it's got all of those photos in there. And then since there's a status change, everybody who's set up on an auto email gets a notification saying that it switched from coming soon to active. So then everybody gets all of the photos then at that point.
it would be nice if it would be, more photos available.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see, an open house. Yeah, you can do that. Coming soon. Yep. So the last piece there is, of course, coming soon. Cannot be shown until the property is active. Otherwise, you're subject to $1,000 fine. So actually, Dee Dee has a question for Don. Don, who's your well and septic guy? Unless you don't want to share that information.
No, that's fine. His name is Randy Bates. He's actually from the Colfax area. And I'll give Matt or Barb his phone number, his contact information in case
Perfect.
anybody's interested. So he doesn't do septic pumping. He just does the inspections and the water samples.
But at a really reasonable price.
Yeah,
That sounds like it.
yeah.
It's like half the price. The next thing that I have in the packet is I just put a copy of the coming soon authorization form in here. Obviously fill everything out on it. I just included it so that you can see it. Barb.
And when you put it in command.
Yeah.
Make it first
Yes.
in the complete offer packet or
Yeah.
separate.
Or yeah,
That's what
separate. So we've got buckets for them to be separate in command and the opportunities. So it's preferred that it's put in separately. However, if you put it in all as one big packet, put it at the top or put a comment on the opportunity saying that it's coming soon, just to let us know. Because I'm not checking files 24/7 and Barb's got to keep her eye open for listings. And if she doesn't know that it's coming soon, she can get all the way through everything and think that it's going to be active and maybe a piece or two is missing. And then we can't actually complete it as coming soon, which of course is not fun or good. Any more? Did I miss anything? Okay. So that's the coming soon authorization form. The next piece that I included in there is which MLS status is in the best interest of my clients. I'm not going to go through every single one of those, but you can see on there that it's talks about all of the different things that you can and cannot do, whether it's coming soon, withheld, or TNAS, or active. So it's just kind of I thought it was a nice little diagram letting you know the different things that you can and can't do, depending upon the kind of listing that it is.
Where do I find this nice checklist here?
Where that checklist?
Yeah.
It's actually in the rules and regs section
Okay,
on North Star.
on North Star. Okay.
Yep. So it's in, it's I had to dig for it a little bit, but it's in the rules and regs, and then they have a coming soon section. And it's one of the documents that you can download from there. The next thing that I put in there is the certification to withhold property listing from MLS. So the withhold form, again, you just have to fill every single thing all on that one in its entirety. And then make sure to submit that. Make sure to notify us of it in some way. Put it on the top if you've got a complete one massive file. Do it separately. Put notes or comments on the opportunity. Because again, Barb has to send that over to North Star. Make sure when you're doing a withhold, we have to have all of the MLS input details as well. So you can't just throw a withhold in there with no other paperwork. You still have to do everything. So. And the last thing that I put in here, I've got it actually on the wall out there too on my magnet board outside my office, but it's the few things to know about North Star Clear Cooperation Policy. We talked about a lot of it throughout the course of the class. The big turned out a little bit small. There's a few things with withhelds that have an effect on clear cooperation. I think that the two most important aspects of it is no massive public advertising. So you can't do email blasts on a withheld property. You can't post it to your Facebook page or any other social media. You can't just kind of, talk about it in a realtor group that is comprised of realtors that are not just part of your brokerage. It's an office exclusive. So within our market center, you can talk about it until you turn blue in the face. You can get people in there, have them look at it, do offers, the whole list goes on. You can talk to individual people. So if you've got people that are looking for a house that's similar to what you've got as a withheld, you can contact those people individually and have a conversation with them about it. But again, no major blasts or anything. You can't just blast it out to your entire database. It's got to be individual conversations and then within the brokerage.
So when you sell a home prior to it actually going live, you just open it up that day with sold?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, accepted offer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or pending, whatever,
Sure.
wherever you're at in the process. I mean, it should be fairly quick. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing a withheld, I'm thinking about it. If I'm doing a withheld and I sell it beforehand, it's a hugger or whatever, or even somebody within the office, I'm probably gonna, once we accept the offer, I'm probably gonna try to flip it back to active with an offer.
Sure, yeah.
That way it's as quick as possible and I doesn't make it look like I have any impropriety.
So what happens to that when if the offer falls through financially or whatever?
You can go back active or you could just drop it into TNAS as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because it's the same thing, because neither Coming Soon or Withheld, neither one of those or TNS, they don't accrue days on market. I don't know how important days on market is to people right now. At different times, it's obviously going to be more important. People aren't looking too much at, well, how long are your listings on the market for before they sell right now? Because everything's selling right now. But again, in a different market, it could be a different situation. So Don's been in the business a heck of a lot longer than I am on that one. How important are days on the market to you?
I used to think it was important, and that's why back in the, maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, as soon as you got an offer, you'd put it pending, even though you weren't pending.
Right. Which you can still do.
Yeah, and I could still do that, but now it seems like more and more agents are just waiting until all those contingencies are cleaned up and you're set to close, whether it's in 30 days or whether it's next week. I see most people are not pending anything until
it's actually pending.
Until it's really pending.
Yeah. I know a couple of years ago, North Star had said we could start pending everything no matter what after you get an accepted offer because of all of the, we'll call them secondary showings, because sellers didn't want to have people come through once they had an accepted offer. Yeah. And there were still a lot of agents that were scheduling, even though there was an accepted offer. So North Star had said, go ahead and mark it pending. That should stop everybody's everything then in that situation.
And if you sell lots like I do that have been on the market for 500 days, that kind of blows up your days on the market anyway. so.
Kind of screws you over.
Yeah,
So,
thoughts on days on market with, like cabin homes, like are they, is that kind of public flag? There's probably, obviously on our end, we can probably see some flags of why they may have been on the market for a while.
I mean, I don't know how much the public really cares about it.
I don't think.
I mean, I suppose if I was if I put myself back in that position, I suppose I could maybe consider seeing myself asking the question of a real estate agent, well, what's your average days on market?
Mhm.
But they don't, I don't think they ask off, I tell them, if we're seeing a home that's been on the market for a longer time, I tell them either the price is
Yeah.
out of whack, or there's something here that we just need to.
Well,
Right,
and 10
fine.
years ago, buyers weren't as educated as they are today.
Right.
They have a lot more information, and quite frankly, I think we maybe do a better job of educating our buyers than we used to, because of course we learn more too. So, the more everybody knows, the more the clearer the process is.
Yeah.
So with buyers having a better education, days on market maybe aren't as important to sellers, at least. Buyers, it's important because obviously that's going to help with determining factors.
Yeah.
But now, you think of a lot of days on market and it's like over 20.
Wow.
That's like a massive amount of days on the market right now. When I got into the business in 2014, you saw stuff that was 200, 300, 400 days on the market. It still existed. It was out there. Not if it's got that many days on the market now, there's a massive reason why
Right.
somebody would have picked it up by that point in this market, unless it's land. Land's different. So cool. I think that's about all I've got for everybody. Does anybody else have any questions? I know we were doing a great job of asking as we went, so. No? Cool. Well, that's it then. Anybody online have any questions? It looks like everybody's gotten pretty quiet, so. No? Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Very helpful.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank Andrew for coming here to support me. He said that's he was coming to support me.
He said yesterday, he came in yesterday to let us know that he was going to come in and support you.
Stay on while you're here.
Thank you.